And we're live in the studio. Team Early as Fuck podcast. Django is being a pain in the ass. Just obsessed with Scott Cole here. Scott, how are you, sir?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad you didn't take a spill during the ice, sleet, hail that's happening outside right now.
I was pretty careful today.
I was gonna say you've been there before, probably
Yes.
and way worse.
Yeah.
So Scott, let's start off with the intro. Who you are, what you love doing, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Scott Cole. I've lived in Stevens Point since 1995. We moved here. I'll start from the beginning. Well, grew up in Jackson, Michigan. Got married. Moved to Gainesville, Florida. My wife got her doctorate degree in chemistry there, and in '95 she started teaching at UWSP. That's what brought us to Stevens Point. When we first got here, I was just racing bikes in the summer of '96.
Okay.
That was my free get out of jail card. And then got noticed at a big race up in Wausau and started, working at local bike shops here.
Mm-hmm.
First, it was Brings Cycling and Fitness in Rapids. Worked there for 5 years as a manager, and then got hired at the Hostel shop in 2000, and I've been there ever since as the manager.
Nice. What did you do before cycling?
Before cycling, I have a 4-year degree, social science major, English minor. I was in education, taught for a brief time before I got married.
Teaching?
History, government, English. I was a Division III college cross country and track coach for women at Albion College in Southern Michigan. Coached at Spring Arbor College, the men's indoor and outdoor track teams. Junior high coaching in between, plus some high school. And I ran all 4 years in college, cross country, indoor and outdoor track. Started at Saginaw Valley State in Michigan, and then my final 2 years were at Spring Arbor College that I ran at, and had a pretty successful track career.
I like it. Would you classify yourself as a runner then? When people label themselves?
I would consider myself a runner. That was my first love.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've always loved bicycles, but I was pretty deep into running in college. In high school, they would have challenges, 1,000-mile T-shirt club, June 1st to August 31st, and I was probably the guy who still has his T-shirt from that. And I ask myself why, but that's just the way I'm put together. I get challenged and I go for it.
I like it, man. How'd you get into biking then?
As a kid, I raced BMX. My dad raced motocross.
Okay.
So I raced motocross also, probably on 2 wheels as soon as he would let me. Raced BMX briefly, motocross up until I graduated from high school. Took a brief time off when the sponsorship ended from dad and mom. And then when I was in college, I got into bike riding, mountain biking and road biking a little bit, just to help with injuries that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got out of college, I dabbled in both mountain biking and about 1.5 years of motocross before we got married and moved to graduate school.
Fair enough. Growing up, what are kind of some things you look back at now with, what you were exposed to, what the environment was like from your parents, from sport, what you've gained from all these years of competition, training, pushing yourself. What do you kind of think about and bring to not only your family and yourself, but all of these little other micro communities you're a part of?
I mean, the biggest thing is it was a different time period. I'm 55 years old right now.
Mm-hmm.
I always joke that I was born breech, so I came out of the womb running feet first, and I haven't really stopped since then. And I think just being outside is what I bring from growing up. I mean, I used to look forward to going with my father 3 nights a week to practice motocross. We were never in the house. My mom had to drag us back in the house to eat dinner. We had a BMX track built in our backyard that all the neighborhood kids came to, 6-rider starting gate, and that was it. I mean, if we weren't on the bicycles, we were playing, we called it Charmin soft touch football, which was tackle basically, wiffle ball, a little bit of everything. But I think that's one of the big things I try to bring to my family right now is that we need to get kids, teenagers outside. I mean, that's what's missing today. You don't see a lot of groups of kids playing outside, and I think that's a big negative.
Yeah, nice. So with let's start listing off some of the other organizations or groups you're a part of that are like community focused.
Okay. I've been on the Green Circle board for 20 years now. Past president of that, on the maintenance committee. I'm on the Friends of Standing Rocks, who helped to get the new lodge, the Banky Olson Recreation Center, built. I've been part of PASTA since probably '03. I started that, the single track mountain bike trails at Standing Rocks, Point Area Single Track Association. Last summer, we just put in 6.5 miles of new trail. This winter, we've got 6.5 miles of groomed fat bike trail out there. We've had a great response to that, and this coming summer, we had the trail builder coming back for another 4 to 5 weeks of trail building also.
Nice.
And I believe that's a few things. I'm involved with Iola Winter Sports Club with the Snow Bully Fat Bike Race that's coming up January 31st, the kickoff to the Winter Carnival out there. And then on June 13th at Standing Rocks, we're going to have a Wisconsin Endurance Mountain Bike Series race, the first race since the early 90s out there.
Really?
And so that's exciting.
Why such a long break or hiatus?
Because at one point they banned mountain biking at Standing Rocks.
Okay.
And it wasn't until 2002 when myself and a college senior went in front of the county parks board. His name was Nate Cover. He's in Wausau now. He was doing a senior project on mountain bike trails. He was the head of the Point Mountain Bikers at UWSP, the mountain bike club. And we had to prove to them that it could be done in the right way and attract people to the park. And that's how we got trails back again. But it's, we've never really tried to have another event there because there's a lot of logistical things that, you need to have figured out. And we're going to start with a smaller race, more grassroots, where, we could have 200 to 300 riders out there. It's a 3-hour race, a 6-hour, and a 10-hour.
And what's the name of the race again?
The Wisconsin Endurance Mountain Bike Series. WEMS is the acronym for it. And the schedule just came up. I still haven't got a name for the race yet. So
Okay, gotcha.
it's to be determined.
Fair enough. That's something I want to talk with you about too. Is kind of the idea right now of, and it's a big picture, but health, fitness, outdoor recreation. You touched on public lands, multiple use access. As someone who's when I'm typically talking about it, just from the things I like to do outside, it comes from the standpoint of hunting, fishing, that kind of thing
Right.
first, and then. But I'm also a big outdoor recreator. I love skiing, biking, hiking, running. For you, you're obviously coming from that. That's predominantly the worlds you run in. What are some, like, why is public land important to you? And then kind of what are some of the things you're doing to help gain access for the activities you like to do?
I mean, I think public lands are important for everybody. I think shared use is important too. And the big thing with trying to get more people or getting permissions to use public land is educating the local municipalities, the counties, state representatives. I mean, we've had a big issue on the Tomorrow River Trail where in the winter we wanted to get permission to fat bike on that. For years, it's groomed for snowmobile trails. They use it as kind of on and off corridor to get to other trails, and people were allowed to cross country ski, dog sled, snowshoe. And when we went in front of the county board, they did not want fat bikes out there in the winter, even though most of us are smart enough not to be out there on Friday or Saturday nights, after dark.
Yeah.
When, there's a lot more snowmobiles, but that is a state bike trail. We have to pay a yearly fee to be on that, and that's one of my issues in the winter, to not be able to use that. And it is a public trail that
Mm-hmm.
bothers me, and that's some of the fights that or issues we deal with. To get new mountain bike trails at Standing Rocks, it took almost 4 months of going in front of the county board to get permission to spend our money on the trails. We raised about $25,000 this last year to bring builders in, and that's not county money. That's money that we raised for the trails.
Yep.
And we have another, $15,000 to $20,000 we've raised for the 2020 trail building project.
Awesome.
And one of the things that we look at too is PASA, or Point Area Single Track Association, isn't just about Standing Rocks County Park. This is year 2 and year 3. We wanted to cover the whole Point area. One of my goals is to work with the city and maybe have urban trails out along the Plover River Trail, so we'd have mountain bike trails that parallel the Green Circle Trail, if that's possible. And that's a big goal, but that's
a huge
that's
goal.
what we're going to work for.
I like it. Why have small goals?
Right.
So maybe this will require us to go further back. In the hunting space right now,
Mm-hmm.
hunting licenses are they're decreasing in a lot of places. Wisconsin, obviously, we're an outlier state. We have like an insane amount of people that rifle hunt. So
Right.
that still holds strong, even though that's decreasing. But there's the talk of the R3 movement. So recruitment, retention, and reactivation. Someone like yourself, you've been in I'm taking this to the outdoor space. You've been in outdoor rec space for so long. Huge advocate for
Mm-hmm.
health, fitness, and getting outside. Have you always been someone that's like this involved with the community aspect of it? Helping get youth programs started, helping create more access, because that's obviously a big thing too, right? That stops a lot of
Right.
people from doing this,
Mm-hmm.
is having access to it. And then someone, I can't imagine there's a ton of people at your age still competing. Not to say that you're old, but
No,
still competing, getting after it, because that's even where you're at right now is typically where people in hunting start to taper off. Like that's the line.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the fire come from, or like what's that look like for you? You're taking on all these leadership roles, and
I always joke that my age group category now, I'm still elite category as a racer, 55, and that's there's not many of us, like you said, and I joke that age group racing is kind of like 55 till death. There's a lot of events that don't have older categories. And one of the things that I forgot to mention, you're talking about youth. This past summer at Standing Rocks, for every Tuesday night or every Wednesday night, May and June, I worked with Don Edberg, who is the founder of the Wisconsin Off-Road Series, the mountain bike series here in the state, and he's the head coach for the Spash NICA mountain bike team also.
Okay.
We did the Central Wisconsin Youth Mountain Bike Club, and we met for an hour and a half every week, and we worked with kids that were just getting into mountain biking, kids that were already into it. And then what happened when we were doing that, we were getting the parents to help with us, and we were actually getting their parents on bikes too.
Awesome.
And so that, that's one of the things that's going to help our sport, is by getting parents involved too, because right now the big thing is too many kids are inside. And getting back to your hunting, your talk about hunting, my son is 12 and he would love to hunt, but I'm not a hunter. And I need to find somebody that could possibly help him do that, and then maybe get me involved into it. So
we can make that happen.
So somebody like you could help me,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'd bring another parent in, and we'd help maybe grow those future numbers.
Yeah,
and it can go both ways.
I love it. Trevor was in here, and he's going to get me rolling with the mentorship program through the
Right.
DNR
Mm-hmm.
for turkey hunt coming up this spring. But yeah, man, I would love to help out
Yeah,
with that.
that
That'd be a
would
lot
be
of
cool.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, my son's 12, and he's always talked about hunting. And my father didn't hunt, obviously. I mean, he was into two-wheeled sports.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I don't know how you, with what I know from my friends that are into the motocross or the four-wheeling or the like snowmobile sports. I look at that and then I look at hunting. I'm like, it'd be tough to do both.
Right. I mean, the biggest question I get asked in the industry that I'm in is the manager at the hostel shop. When we used to do downhill skiing, snowboarding, Nordic skiing, snowshoeing, mountain biking, road biking, recreational riding, they would always ask if I was going to go snowboarding. And I'm like, I don't have time to snowboard. I did it, but I wasn't very good at it.
Uh-huh.
And now, you know, with all the stuff that I'm doing, my daughter made varsity at Spash as a basketball player as a 10th grader. So that throws another, you know, night or two into the schedule.
You're a busy man.
So it's pretty tough.
Oh, coffee. I like it. So we're touching on all this lovely stuff. Let's cycle back to you and talk about the competition mindset. We talked a little bit before the podcast about people with that competitive mindset, the quote unquote athlete mindset, you know, the high school, college, and then boom, you're in adult life. And I see it all the time at the gym with, you know, people I work with. They're just looking for that thing. How did you find the thing or keep yourself in that thing, that world? What did that look like for you?
I mean, from high school on, I'm one of those people out there that I really never want to get out of shape because, you know, when you've been injured in college and then you have to come back, it's, you know, and you're young then, it's one of the hardest things. And as an adult, you miss 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and that really puts you behind.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes life gets in the way and you never have time to catch up. And one of the things that I found is I'm an early riser, just like you are.
Uh-huh.
And I was married for 16 years before we started a family. My 2 children are adopted from here in Wisconsin. And at that point, when my daughter was 2, my son was 10 months, I was in the middle of racing at the national level, doing 24 solo mountain bike racing. And to be honest with you, I was disciplined enough where I could get up at 4 o'clock and I could ride 3 or 4 hours, be done by 8, shower and off to work, and then I could spend time at night doing family things.
Uh-huh.
And I guess I'm just, you know, programmed that way to do stuff like that. And I had my, you know, as a 44-year-old, I was 5th in the nation with the pros at 24 solo nationals for U.S. cycling, and we did almost 280 miles of single track in 24 hours. And I don't know how I did that with 2 young children. I mean, it's like my wife and I had retirement first,
Uh-huh.
and then we started a family. And, you know, I just think that drive, I mean, it's different from person to person.
Yeah.
And I've seen older people come into training at D1 at other gyms. Some of them get hooked so hard that they burn out early, but then if they do it right, it turns into a lifestyle, and that's great. And I think that's what we need to do with not only the youth but the adults, is make it part of your lifestyle.
Definitely.
That's important to stay healthy.
Definitely. And I love that you touched on you talk about discipline. What systems, so environmental systems, Coach Derek Bell's been on the podcast.
Right.
And we always talk, this is what him and I talk about all the time for health, wellness, sport, performance, but the idea of environment. What does the environment you create for yourself look like? Both, you know, your external environment, your mental environment, your mindset. What does that look like for you? Like, what, maybe the evolution? I mean, you talk about you're just naturally that way, but for doing it this long, and I'm guessing most of your training when you were competing was done solo.
just about all of it was solo. For the endurance events, we're talking 15 to 20 hours a week on the bicycle, plus core and upper body and other things like that on top of it. The environment at home's got to be right too. Even with before kids, and then bringing kids into our life. My wife was a collegiate athlete also, high school collegiate, cross country, track, both indoor and outdoor. And I think that helps to have the right partner that understands that. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of give and take, just like with any relationship. Some's good, some is bad, but you learn to adapt. And I was lucky that I have somebody like that supports what I've done. Mm-hmm. She's always at every event except for the few of the crazy ones like the Margie Gessick lately.
Because wearing the hat
because she teaches at the university and her schedule doesn't always allow her to get away for that. But having everything kind of organized at home is a big thing, I think. Mentally, in college, we had mentors at Saginaw Valley. So when I was a freshman running, you come from the high school scene when, as my dad would say, you're a stud. You're a freshman on a D2 NCAA team that can beat Michigan and Michigan State in the mitten, and you run. I'll give an example. My first 10K at Eastern Michigan University, my first 5K was a PR. Second 5K, I blew up like a big dog. And I believe my dad said, how does it feel to go from being a stud to a dud? And that stuck with me. That has stuck with me ever since that day. Mm-hmm. I mean, and I think that fueled the fire to, work harder, be more disciplined. Mentally, I've never had a problem. I mean, I've always have a few words I say: never say die. Yeah. And I mean, you have to be smart because you can hurt yourself. And as I've gotten older, I've learned to back off when I know I'm going to hurt myself. And sometimes you have to drop out of an event. I mean, you never want to, DNF an event you're doing, but sometimes you have to be smart because there's other people that rely on you. Your family is the biggest thing.
That's a big topic. I always try to cover and remind people when I do their initial evaluation or consult, and you find out they're a high school or a collegiate athlete, and they just love it. You can see the fire in their eye, and they're whatever that switch is in us that gets triggered for finding the motivation or the discipline is, get back into shape, start working out for a goal. I try to remind them, I'm like, remember, you've got a family. Right. You've got to show up to work, especially if their job is something service or skill related. It's like, I'm glad you're fired up, and I know you want to get after it, but we're playing the long game. The idea of fitness for life. So let's be the hero of your journey, but let's not be the hero in this workout if something starts to feel sketchy.
Right.
So for you, and we touched on it before the show. And you've been talking about it a little bit, but the idea of training, performance injuries, mindset, what does that look like now for you?
Well, like when I was in college, some of the biggest issues I had was IT band syndrome. That seemed to haunt me a little bit. I ran the 3,000 meter steeplechase my last 2 years in college, and that could be a fun event, but it was also a brutal event because the barriers didn't fall down if you hit those. Right. And, I got through that, and then I think I'm on my 32nd or 33rd year of competitive cycling right now at the elite level. And I think at one time I had more miles on my body than I did on our 2006 Ford Focus wagon.
Holy shit.
And so, mileage-wise, when you think about wear and tear, not just mentally, but on your body and joints, when you're riding 6,000 to 10,000 miles a year, you either have no problems or you have small problems that sometimes you push through, you make things worse. And I mentioned to you before we started this, on February 18th, I go on to have my right hip replaced. And for the last 2 years, even competing at a pretty high level, still being at the top of my age group, I've been fighting, and I think I mentally have pushed through this. But it got to the point about a week and a half before Christmas where I wasn't sleeping at all. I couldn't get comfortable, couldn't sit in a chair, bring my right leg up to reach my foot to put my sock on. I had to, make a decision, and I went into Stevens Point Orthopedic and saw my good friend, Dr. Todd Williams, and we did an X-ray, and I've got some issues with, my right hip, and, I'm kind of scared about getting it replaced, but I'm looking forward to getting rid of the pain, and I'm still biking, consistently either every day or every other day, about 2 hours at a time.
Yeah.
But the problem right now is the hip starts bothering me. I get off the bike, I limp real bad, and then sometimes I have to go lay down for a couple hours to deal with the pain.
Yikes.
And I'm the type of person that, this morning I was researching all the things I could do to help my surgery with, hip flexor, flexibility,
Prehab.
all the doing this all ahead of time. So when I go into surgery, it makes my rehab better.
Yeah.
And, this sounds crazy, but I know somebody that was back on a bike trainer a week and a half after their surgery, and that's kind of a goal, and I've got to be careful with my mindset not to probably push too hard.
Yeah.
And
I like it. There's just from my experience in sports medicine, rehab, that kind of thing. Yeah, there's some people, they're just like, fuck it, like whatever happened, they lose that mindset, or they're like, well, I'm done now, it's game over. It's cool to see that you've got the mindset of what can I do for set myself up for the best outcome. And prehab is a big component of that. Like, what can I do physically, mentally? And I think you're doing it right now. Is you're addressing outcomes, you're addressing what you need to do lifestyle wise, mindset wise, to allow your body to recover, because your body wants to heal. Like once the surgery happens, your body's like, all right, we're gonna start laying down new tissue, replacing the muscle, replacing the connective tissue, and you're setting yourself up for success in that.
Right. And I think to be successful as an older, athlete, somebody that's active, I mean, you really have to listen to your body. And because I'm stubborn, like a lot of male athletes are, like I said, I went 2 years. I did, 2 100-mile races at Margie Gessick, and, you've talked to Jared Linsmeyer. He's done the 50-mile run. I mean, you're on the bike for 12 plus hours up there with 14,000 feet of climbing. And, 2 years ago in 2018, the hike-a-bike sections going into Ishpeming were so bad, I thought I was my leg was sore, but it was really the hip. And when you walk like Frankenstein pushing your bike up a steep hill, it's not the best situation.
Yeah, for sure. And then, was it last year you fell on that same hip?
I fell on the hip. It was just before 3 hours, 35 miles into the event, and made a mistake and clipped my handlebar on a small tree on a steep rocky descent and went down. And I thought I could ride out of it, but I got to a point where I knew the course was going to get tougher, and I did not want to be on my bike for 15 plus hours, and I decided to pull the plug and be smart about it.
Yeah, definitely be smart about it. All of this sounds brutal. You guys, I just love hearing about it. The endurance stories. A big part of this too, then, obviously your longevity and your performance level has to be like your diet, your eating habits. What does that look like? How has that evolved?
It depends on what month it is, but we at our house we get a farm share from White Feather every week in the summer.
Shout out White Feather.
Yes, those guys are great out there. I'm like anybody else. I'm pretty good for most of the time, but I fall off the wagon when there's good beer, there's cookies and all that stuff. And sometimes I figure, well, I'm training hard, I can burn those off. But one of the things is, as you get older, your metabolism isn't as great. So I mean, I could look at a cookie and gain 2 pounds, and that's the hardest part about being an older athlete, is you have to be more careful.
Yeah, it's like reading the research on one of the continuing ed series I did this past year was metabolism for the older athletes. And it's not just about, I know everyone, even at the gym, oh, wait until you're my age.
Yeah.
And there's a true component of that, the way you metabolize carbohydrates, fat, and protein. The one that scares me the most, and I think the one that a lot of older athletes don't realize, is you require more protein as you get older, especially when you're active.
Right.
For your body to absorb it. Like, it just, to have the same, so like 20 grams of protein from steak for me is metabolized very differently for you, where you need, I think 40% more to have the same effect.
Right.
Like for older male athletes. And that's something a lot of male and female athletes don't realize when they get older, because we've created this system. I was just talking about with Trevor about like fear of food, fear of actually like giving your body what it needs, and especially in the health and fitness outdoor spaces. I work with people who chronically overeat, and it's always like super calorie rich foods with very low micronutrient profiles. So like processed foods, fast foods, that kind of thing. And then I also work with, and I'm sure you see it at the competitive level with what you're at, is the chronic undereater. The male or female athlete, especially in something like cycling or running, where it benefits the athlete to be on that lighter level for their sport. It's going to less resistance, you're going to be able to ride faster, blah, 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 blah. But they're chronically undereating. So it's the athlete that, wow, I'm putting in all this work, my times are going down, or my times are it's taking longer. I'm not recovering. I'm injured. And it's having that conversation with them to the why do you think you're going to gain weight if you eat more protein, or if you eat more nutritionally dense food? But they just think, oh, I'm going to gain weight. Or I don't know if, has the carbohydrate scare entered the endurance biking world?
No, I don't think, that's scared many of us. I mean, right now with what's out there to train with, I was just thinking about the new smart indoor trainers that are out there. If you've seen
that thing at Hostel Shop. Yep. Is that what's at Hostel?
Yeah. So
that thing is crazy.
So, one of the things that's happening out there is, I've grown up with, especially here in the Midwest, in the winter, you build your base. Well, now we've got this indoor cycling phenomenon going on, where you can cycle, do workouts, do group rides, and right on the screen on the right-hand side, it's got what your watts per kilogram is.
Oh, shit.
And so in cycling, wattage is the big thing.
Yep.
That's more important than heart rate and all that. And, the lighter you get, the better your numbers look there. And supposedly the faster you can climb. But if your diet's not right, that's never going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've always said, I've coached quite a few elite athletes in cycling, is that, you gain the most on your recovery days.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the younger athletes don't believe that. They think you have to work to death.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you said, their results just get poorer and poorer.
Yeah.
And you've got to take a break and have fun. I mean, you can't just be going 24/7, 12 months a year.
Definitely. What are, for yourself, what are some of your go-to recovery meals, recovery habits, activities? What's that look like for you? If you're feeling like super, I don't want to say burnt out, but you're just feeling the effects of.
I mean, I've been an athlete where, even in my mid 40s, I had, a couple scares where, white blood cell count, all those things, anemic, were not good. I mean, when you're doing 2 24 solo races in a 3-month period, it takes a toll on your body. And, I was told by a physician in Marshfield, he asked me if I ate steak. And I said, well, we have beef and, some of the, stroganoffs that my wife makes and here and there. And he goes, no, I'm talking about a real steak. And I actually had to start eating steak to get my iron levels back up.
Yeah.
Because, people don't realize that. And I never really thought about weight when I'm competing, because in a 24-hour race, I can't be at 160 pounds for a regular 2-hour race like I usually am. I have to be 165 to 70 because you burn an awful lot of, calories.
Oh, yeah.
And, once your body starts eating away at itself, your performance is going to go down quick. And, we always had a saying for the endurance racing that I did, that 300 calories an hour, about 30 ounces of, fluids for hydration. And then you had to have a lot of options during that event because you get sick of some of the stuff that you started with. But yeah, I think for recovery, I like recovery, shakes, whether, protein, smoothies. There's all sorts of things, but I don't know, steak and potatoes. I think that's great for recovery food.
I like it. And White Feather has some of the best potatoes.
Yes.
For mental recovery, what are those activities look like?
I would say mental recovery. I was thinking about this today when I was out riding on the country club fat bike trails, is just to get out there and enjoy it and not push it. Like I said, I'm programmed as somebody that, I always wanted to be, not always now, the fastest person in the group ride, instead of in the middle of the pack at the front.
Yeah.
And I think I've taken a different perspective of it, where to get better, you have to have fun. And you can't always go hard. And I think for mental breaks, I love being in the woods doing trail work. I love just riding my bike on the Green Circle Trail. Reading a book. There's a lot of things out there. Trying to do home projects, which I suck at, but around the house. But that's a mental break.
I like it. Yeah, there's something to be said with, because I find myself falling into that even with hunting. Is you go out and you have these expectations for yourself for performance. And I'm always telling people at the gym, like, don't fall into the trap of constantly comparing yourself to other people in the gym or on Facebook, on social media, because that's definitely going to rob the fun of it. Like, if that's what you're always doing, and I find, I catch myself falling into that trap. So so going out and, without expectations, just enjoy it, enjoy the process, enjoy watching the dog work, all the training Django and I do, just going out and just drinking it in, not having an expectation. With bird hunting or upland hunting, I fall into that where I'm just like, all right, I know what the dog's capable of. I know I'm physically capable. We're gonna hunt hard. We're gonna hike way back there. If someone's with us, they better be able to keep up, because we're going. But just being like, all right, man, chill. Like, especially if I'm going with someone, showing someone, like, what are they capable of? What are their expectations? Like, let's have fun. See some countryside, see some, some public land, like, if you know the area, go to a spot looks cool.
Right. Stop and take some photos.
Yeah, exactly.
The biggest thing that I get is, you mentioned I ride a lot by myself, especially when I was, really competitive. And sometimes I have problems riding with other friends that I know, because they think we're going to go out and I'm just going to, kick their ass. And I'm like, no, I will ride your pace, because I love doing stuff with other people. It's awful talking to yourself and answering yourself. You're on the Tomorrow River Trail all the way to the end, and you turn around and come back.
Yeah.
And, that's the biggest thing. And I've started doing more of that, where, I'll go ride with somebody and they're like, well, you ride too fast. I'm like, no, I'm going to ride whatever you want to ride. And that's what I enjoy now.
Yeah.
And that pays benefits too. To your health. You have to have a little bit of everything out there too.
I love it. Talking about, I need to do a better job of that. I've got a terrible reputation as like the death march hunter. So people are like, nah. And Marissa, my partner, she purposefully will make sure someone else is coming with so she can walk with them, because the dog and I just we get tunnel vision. I'm working on it, but yeah, that's how it is with fitness. People will be like, oh, I don't want to work out with you.
Right.
You're too intense, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, I want to meet you where you're at. I want it to, because I know how fun it is. I know the benefits of it. I want it to be enjoyable for that person. So that's super important. Circling back to the Green Circle, I want to start talking about some of these groups you're on and kind of the why behind it. So the Green Circle, what are some of your favorite things about it, your favorite spots? Oh, actually, don't give favorite spots. We don't talk about favorite. You don't have to give those up. But what do you love about it, and what made you want to take on a leadership role?
I mean, I guess how it started was I knew somebody who wasn't on the Green Circle board, and he heard that they were looking for some new board
blood.
members, younger. I mean, when I started, I was one of the younger board members on that. I think I came on board with John Noel, Bev Laska, and John Buzza at the same time. And I mean, the founders were still there. Roy Menzel, John Jury's still on the board, Gary Speckman, a lot of big names here in Stevens Point. And I had only lived here 5 years, and I was intimidated. I mean, we have almost 20 people on the board. It's a large board. And one of the neat things when I moved here, coming from not far from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and then going to Gainesville, Florida, I moved here and people were complaining about traffic, and I laughed every time they talked about that, because there are no traffic jams, nothing. And I still think to this day it's not that bad, except for Highway 10
I was going to say
Target.
Rush hour on 10
which I hate
is the only
that.
thing I can think of.
But I just thought it was so neat to have a community trail that circles our community that anybody can use. It doesn't matter how athletic you are, whether you have a bike, you walk, you run, you take your dog out. I mean, anybody can get out on it. They can do small parts of it. They can do the half of it. They can do the whole thing. I just think that's neat. And every time I go back home to Southern Michigan, I kind of complain about not having something like that. And that's one of the things that I think is great, because Stevens Point was pretty small when we moved here in '95. I mean, it's still not much bigger. I called it Mayberry or Green Acres. Asked where the best Mexican food was. I was told Taco John's and Taco Bell. I was very disappointed. But I mean, I get excited talking about the Green Circle, talking to customers about it, because we have people in this community who have never been on the circle.
Yeah, that's crazy to me.
And you can go out and it takes you through everything, through pretty cool neighborhoods, along the river, the woods. I mean, you're so close to town, but you're way out there. Yeah. And it's an amazing feature we have.
I love it. It's such a great just trail system for, I mean, I've foraged off of it. Right. There's so many opportunities off of it, like you were just saying, for multiple use in different groups.
Yeah. And one of the big things people don't know about is we maintain the Green Circle by donation. Yeah. And that's huge. I mean, our community has really come around to support it.
Definitely. So we've got the Green Circle, Standing Rocks, pasta. What does that look like for you?
That's probably one of the busiest things right now. For a while there, we have 5 or 6 people on our board. We call it a board. We've got Mike Mitchell from the Hilltop, John Leake, Jeremy Higgins from the Boys and Girls Club. He's helping us with grant writing. That's what he does at the Boys and Girls Club. Trying to get Johnny Pabs on board. I was working on him at the Global Fat Bike Day, and hopefully he can get things situated at Pabs so he can meet with us on some Wednesday nights. We usually meet every Wednesday night at the Hilltop to discuss future plans, and we really want to get a lot of local people involved with this because it's big. But we want people to have a place to recreate. Out at Standing Rocks, we have the new lodge that just opened up. That's got a warming room, bathrooms, lockers, water that's available 24/7.
Nice.
You got the main room in there that's open usually 10 to 4:30 every day. Fireplace, little concession area that we're working on. It's got log furniture in there. It's a pretty cool place. We're gonna have a fire pit once we get rid of the snow and we do some more construction. But Standing Rocks is a gem. We've got the dog park. We got the high school running course, cross country. We've got disc golf. We've got downhill skiing, Nordic skiing, and and mountain biking and fat biking, plus people trail run out there. And I think having these areas for public areas can help get our community more fit also.
Oh, definitely.
But we have to make sure that they know it's there. The more involved I get, the more I find out that people have no idea what's going on in our small county.
It's between the outdoor access, like the awareness of that, or the lack of awareness people have, and then also like the local food.
Right.
That was the big thing for me too. Is like, as much as I love food, hunting, sustainable farming, and what that does for health and fitness, it just blows my mind every year, because we both get more entrenched in these things we do, and then you become aware that, wow, the group I'm in is very small and so many people that aren't aware of it. So it's super true, even about something as big as Standing Rocks and what's all out there.
Yeah, I've learned not to assume anymore.
Exactly. Out at and then Iola. So you've got what's going on out there?
So at Iola, this will be the 6th year that I do the Iola Snow Bully Fat Bike Race. It's a Friday night event that starts at 6 o'clock. It's a 1 hour and 2 hour fat bike race on the groomed Nordic ski trail under the lights.
Nice.
They have enough lights out there where you don't even need a headlight if you don't want it.
That's a great trail out there.
And I started it, and it's still to this day the same thing. The proceeds from it stay with the club to help with what they do with grooming, and it also helps their youth ski program out there, because that's one of the areas where they have a youth ski team. They do ski lessons for kids, and they have rental equipment where if kids can't afford their own equipment, they can rent it from them too. And I think they work pretty good with families who may not be able to afford the nicest equipment. They can use the equipment out there.
That's awesome.
But I mean, it's another place, and Iola's it's not public land. It's a private club, but it's open to everybody.
Yeah,
anybody can go out there.
Yeah,
and it's beautiful.
And it's right off the Ice Age Trail.
Yes,
correct?
The Ice Age Trail goes right through the Iola Winter Sports Club.
Yeah, the Ice Age Trail is its own amazing gem we have here in the state. Do you do any? Have you done any events? Does mountain biking happen on the Ice Age Trail at all?
No biking on the Ice Age Trail.
There's no biking on the Ice Age Trail?
No, it's not allowed. I think we would get in trouble. I mean,
this surprises me.
Yeah, us mountain bikers find trails we probably shouldn't be on, but that's one of those that we stay off from.
Fair enough. I wasn't aware of that. Well, Scott, what else do you want to? We're closing in on an hour, and I'm guessing I get uncomfortable sitting. You've got your hip, I'm sure, doesn't appreciate it for too long. What else do you want to cover? Any concluding thoughts for people?
I think the biggest thing, for recreating and staying healthy, staying fit, is just find people to do it, activities with. Stay active. Don't make an excuse that you're too old. I mean, that's the biggest thing that I hear.
I'm sure.
In what you do with training and what I do with getting people on bicycles, you always hear people say, well, I'm too old to get a bike like that. And I'll ask them how old they are, and they'll say like 43, 44. And I'm like, I'm older than you. You can ride a bike.
Yeah.
But, I think, you have to almost, give yourself a little bit of time in your day, make it your time to get out there and be active. That's the most important thing to being fit and having a healthy lifestyle.
I love it, man. Where can people, I'll have links to Iola, Green Circle, Standing Rocks, but where can people reach you if they want more info on racing, biking, that kind of thing?
The biggest thing, I'm on Facebook. I mean, I'm easy to find there under Scott Cole, at the hostel shop. And then, I'm not afraid to give out my email, sdccole82@gmail.com either. I'm more than willing to help people get started in whatever activity they want to.
Perfect. Awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming on, and it was awesome
thank you.
Podcasting with you.